Hi there, I'm Justin Pritchard, and today, the BMW i8 Roadster. Remember when you were a kid and your parents told you not to make a scene? Well, you can throw all of that out the window if you're driving this, because if you don't get noticed pulling up somewhere, you'll definitely get noticed when you open this partial electric Roadster's upward hinged wasp wing doors. Once, vehicles that look like this were the stuff of futuristic concept cars or the Hollywood big screen, where they flew around in space and shot laser beams at each other. And though this just launched Roadster version of the i8 is nowhere near the fastest, stickiest, or highest performing car you can spend this much money on, it encapsulates everything BMW knows about electric performance into an extremely styled package that nods towards the future. Maybe you like the idea of a Lamborghini or Ferrari but want something that won't rip through its fuel supply like an orbit-bound rocket thruster. If you're a BMW fan and want one of their most rare and special and cutting-edge offerings, the i8 Roadster is for you. It's sports car performance wrapped in a package that makes a supercar-level scene rolling down the road, and all of the fuel bill like a Ford Fiesta. It's not $1 million supercar, but everyone thinks it is, so prepare to be noticed. There's no going for a discreet drive in the i8 Roadster, and you're always on full display. So, how does this all work? Well, I've got a fuel door back here, and that's for gasoline, and then up there around the other side is a charge port for plugging in to charge up the batteries, which you do with a plug like this. Now, I can't show you the engine since that's not accessible from up top, but basically you have a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbo engine in the back, which drives both the rear wheels and an electrical generator that recharges the batteries, which are located somewhere in here behind the seats. Now up front there is an electric motor which drives the front wheels using electricity stored in the battery. Gas drives the rear, batteries drive the front, and you plug it in to charge the batteries even more if you like. Now in all, you've got all-wheel drive and a combined output at the better part of 370 horsepower. That's good for 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds. Quick, but definitely not as fast as the looks lead on. In simple terms, you've got a blend of gasoline and electric power at your disposal, and some combination of those two things drives this car at all times. Press eDrive and the i8 goes full electric. Performance is ramped down, but acceleration remains decent, and you get about 45 kilometers of totally fuel-free driving up to and beyond highway speeds on your fully charged battery. Keep that battery charged up by plugging it in whenever you can, and you'd never need to use any fuel. In the standard mode, i8 uses electricity and gasoline together, blending both like a regular plug-in hybrid. Here you've got a cruising range of hundreds of kilometers since you're using gas, just not very much of it. Full performance is on tap when requested. Or use Sport mode. This turns the instruments red, ramps the engine up for instant acceleration, and uses the electric motor as a sort of performance boost. Here the i8 is a proper sports car, and all set at the tap of a button, you can switch from full electric to full performance or somewhere in between on the fly. And you might hear the switching and blending of the two power sources, but you won't really feel them. This is one of the smoothest plug-in hybrid drivelines I've ever experienced. It's an interesting performance. Electric motors make all of their torque all of the time, so throttle response is instantaneous. And like all fast BMWs, full throttle sees the i8 remain smooth, refined, and feeling largely unbothered. Little you can do from the driver's seat takes away from how natural a performer this thing feels. And though it's not supercar fast, a Mustang GT would leave it trailing in a quarter-mile drag by all accounts, you smile knowing it's a 3-cylinder engine and that the brisk acceleration comes from both gas and electricity. It's a joy to drive spiritedly, partly because doing so won't empty your wallet at the pumps, partly because it's not so obscenely fast you'll wind up in jail, and largely just because it feels so instant and smooth, like a buttery tidal wave of electric torque gliding you along. Here's what it sounds like. Fun fact, those sound effects are synthetic, and largely they come from a big speaker in the rear bumper designed to make the i8 sound pleasing in a way that 3-cylinder engines and silent electric motors just can't. Steering weights up gorgeously in Sport mode, helping lock the i8 with creamy precision into the line you've requested. It feels beautifully calibrated against the rest of the car. Gears shift instantly and with invisible smoothness accented by perfect rev matching in both directions. Engineers worked overtime on the brake pedal feel too. Unlike most hybrids, they feel like brakes, not an inconveniently watery lasagna with a brake pedal sticking out of it. Ultimately, it's a joy to drive this thing hard. It's flat, stable, and eager, and with everything balanced nicely against everything else. You can feel the balance of the mid-engine design and the low center of gravity. The i8 never feels like it's fighting its weight. Just note that with the relatively narrow tires, the most spirited drivers might find it easy to ask too much of them in fast corners, even if handling limits are higher than anyone needs on a public road. In all, the performance here is very unique and pleasing, even if it's not the sole focus of this machine. It's a relatively easygoing car that's ready for everyday use, too. It's not super easy to bottom out. The ride is like a sports sedan, not a spine-bashing supercar. It's road trip ready as can be on the ride quality and noise front, too. But there's the getting in and out, which is the biggest thing about living with the i8. The door opening is incompatible with the shape of a human being, and if you try to get in the usual way, you'll take the edge of the A-pillar to the face. Go head first and you'll have to lie on the seat. It's easiest if you use the door sill as a bum slide, then swing your legs in. It's not easy or graceful, but you'll get used to it. Getting out is not quite as complicated, but does feel like you're being born again. And pack light for that highway trip. The cargo space is big enough for 2 bags of groceries or a small camera bag. There's a little additional storage in behind the seats if you need it. And they're fantastic seats surrounded by this cabin with many familiar BMW design elements all deployed, trimmed, and assembled with curvaceousness and attention to detail that fully support the price. A final note, the roof is excellent. BMW wants you topless as much as possible, and that shows. The lid operates in near silence, never slams, and you can work it up to almost 60 clicks an hour. Just a few seconds and you've got a roof or not. It stores into its own hiding place, so there's no need to adjust the cargo, and even at higher speeds, the cloth top doesn't make it sound like you're driving a 4-wheeled tent down the road. So, how much for BMW's most cutting-edge car? Well, as seen here, supercar looks, massive exclusivity, and a partially electric sports roadster with a great top and great manners rings in at the better part of $180,000. I'm Justin Pritchard, and I am off to buy a lottery ticket.